This is Money Made Simple, the financial podcast that keeps it simple and gets to the point.
Kia ora and welcome back to Money Made Simple.
Happy 2025.
Happy New Year, Liv.
Yeah, how exciting. Fresh new year. Needed that after a shitty 2024.
Exactly. So 2025, we're looking forward to a new year, and it is the perfect time to set up some new financial habits and goals.
Which is today's podcast topic.
This is the time when you are thinking about lots of things in your life. We all join the gym and improve our diet for a little while, but it is also a time that we can think about our financial situation and set some goals so that when we look this time next year, we're in a better place than we are right now.
I think it's also a good time to reflect on the successes and maybe the failures, if there were, of the previous 12 months and kind of look at what worked, what didn't.
Yeah, I reckon that's actually the first place that you should start, because quite often we don't take much time to reflect on what we have achieved. So give yourself a little pat on the back for that, but also look at the things that went really well and the things that didn't and what you might want to do differently.
Yeah. And why do you think setting goals matters?
Well, if you don't know where you're trying to get to, it's really hard to get there, right? As soon as you articulate a goal and you start thinking about what needs to be done to get there, it actually makes it easier to achieve.
Yeah, it's kind of like a roadmap, right?
Yeah, and you're more likely to talk about it to friends and family if you've got a goal in mind, and then you're accountable to others, you've said it out loud. So I think there's lots of reasons why setting goals in all aspects of your life is really useful.
Yeah, it kind of gets you clear and
keeps you motivated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So cool. So let's dive into it.
Well, why don't we actually start by reflecting a little bit on our own 2024s?
Yeah, practice what we preach, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
what do you think, financially speaking, went really well for you last year?
Ooh, not much.
What did you check off the list?
I know what went well was my KiwiSaver savings. I think it was a record year in the stock markets, and obviously because I've got plenty of time before I retire, I am in a high growth fund.
Yeah.
And so I think the growth for that was 20-something% on the year. So that felt, with kind of quite high contributions, that felt like I was really
Making
kicking
some
goals.
progress.
Yeah, kicking goals towards retirement. So that's the one thing that went well financially.
Cool.
Yeah. Not so well were a lot of the investments that I'd made in the last couple of years. So we'd bought 2 investment properties. So one of our properties is worth 150 grand less than what we bought it for. That's quite hard to take because we owe the bank the full amount. So yeah, that's been pretty tough. Had some issues with property management and tenants and whatnot, which is all part of the risk that you take on when you invest in property. So had one of those down years in terms of total net worth and how the finances are going. So KiwiSaver's bubbling away nicely, but everything else is not. So it kind of went down to watching the budget very carefully.
Yeah, I think that would have been the same for people all over the country,
course.
right?
And people without investment properties. I completely am aware that we're in a very lucky position to be able to hold on to our investment properties, but it was a little bit touch and go as to whether we could.
Yeah, but those things are some of the uncertainties of investing, and so you will have those ups and downs.
Yeah, so we had to budget more than we've ever had to. So we've always kind of had more coming in than going out, and it was kind of a bit of the flip last year. So we know it's all part of the journey. You've got to be able to ride that volatility in markets and investments, especially if you're investing in higher risk type of assets like property or the share market.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about you?
What went well, I think the kids, stuff with the kids, like talking about money. We set up investment funds for them, and we're making regular payments into those accounts.
That's awesome.
And my little one started pocket money for the first time, so chatting to her about what money means and all that stuff. That was really good. So doing okay with the kids. I'm trying to be less bored about finances in the house.
Good.
So when
did
Jake,
having a podcast help?
Yeah, it has helped a little bit. So when we were talking like resetting mortgage, our interest rates.
Refixing?
Yes, refixing. Thank you.
Get the lingo right if you're going to be interested.
I didn't go into a death spiral of boredom. I actually tried to stay present in the conversation.
That head was not buried in the sand.
Yes.
Cool.
So still lots of progress
Hard
to make.
Hard for you to do that because it was like refixing rates, which would have been way more expensive. So you came in the interested era of when it was horrible to go through those refixing conversations.
I guess I understood more what it meant, and I just had a little bit more understanding. A lot of my boredom was just because I didn't understand it, and it made me feel stupid.
That's a really key point, right? I think that when there's poor financial literacy, a lot of the time it's not because someone is not interested, it's because it's really hard to understand. So
Yeah, because most people aren't stupid.
No.
They've never had the opportunity to learn what some of this stuff means. And as you start to build your knowledge, then you can start to take part in the conversations, and then it all
so go
makes
listen to more
sense.
episodes of Money Made Simple.
And then you can be as smart as us about money.
Yeah, cool. All right. So we had mixed years. I had a
Yes.
shitty financial year. You had some progress. Of
Yeah,
being more
and we went
financially
on
fit.
our big trip,
did.
which we had saved for, but also ended up costing money as well.
Cool.
But,
Okay.
Yeah, looking forward.
Yes.
So I think the first thing to talk about is actually how to set goals, because it's really easy just to say,
Set some goals.
I want to be rich by the end of the year, or I want to go on a holiday or something. But there's this thing called SMART goals. SMART is SMART.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yes. That's how you
Rude.
spell smart, is it?
And that stands for specific, measurable. I'm going to have to look at my computer because
Accurate.
Achievable.
Oh.
Achievable,
God, I think-
relevant, and time bound.
Okay.
So specific means be really clear. I am saving for a holiday at the end of the year. It's a 2-week holiday in a Pacific island, and it's going to cost
Yes,
this much.
the
Be
exact
really
amount.
specific.
Yep.
So you've drawn a line in the sand about that. Measurable just means not something sort of fluffy like I want to be rich. Like you've put a bit of a number on in a time.
Kind of similar to the specific, right? You're
Yes.
saying this is exactly how much I want to save, or
Yeah.
this is what I want to achieve in my exam mark kind of thing.
Achievable is really important because you have to set goals that you actually have a shot at achieving.
So not that I want to make $1 million next year.
No, because you won't make it, and then you'll feel bad, and then you won't set a goal next year because you're like, what's the point? It can be a stretch, can push you a little bit, but it needs to be achievable.
I feel like the realistic one is also related to that, right? It's like realistic means also achievable. Is it
No,
not?
but it's an acronym. Like
Yeah.
they got
SMART
the words.
wouldn't work.
Exactly. Smart felt good. So that brings us to the R.
Yes.
Relevant.
Oh.
And again, there's some double up
I thought
here,
it was
but it's-
realistic. Shit, I'm not really good at this acronym.
No, realistic is more about the achievable bit. Relevant is it relevant to your life right now? So I guess something for me might be around the kids. There's no point having goals for your kids if they're really little, but now that they're a bit older, it's relevant to them to talk about money and save money
So
themselves.
I wouldn't say I want to get 90% of my exam because I don't have an exam coming up.
That would be an irrelevant goal. Yes, although I'm sure you could find an exam to sit.
I could, but it would kind of be irrelevant, wouldn't it?
You want a little gold
it wouldn't
star.
tick the SMART goals.
True. And then time bound. Like rainy day fund's a good example because it's really good to say, I want to have this much saved by this period of time.
Yeah,
Put
time
a deadline
goal
on it.
Like,
yeah.
and don't just make them all by the end of the year, because then you'll get to December this year and kind of be like, oh crap, I had these 5
And
SMART
I haven't
goals that are
achieved
all-
any of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And the time bound thing, you can have little milestones along the way as well. So you might have an ultimate goal, but this is how I'm going to get there is every month I'm going to do this. So you've got your budget for your everyday life, but you can put your goals, you slot that into your budget so that that's just part of how you're running your finances.
Yeah, and we talked about this in the budgeting episode, but there are loads of like kind of tools and apps that can help you with budgeting. So Pocketsmith I've got, which is quite comprehensive.
Sorted have got a good
Free.
planner that you can use.
Yeah.
And I actually, on Money Hub, and I think we've mentioned this before too, they've got a guide that looks at lots of the different apps that are available and the kind of pros and cons. So that would be a good
We
starting
love Money
point.
Hub, don't we?
We do, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. What else?
KiwiSaver. Of course, we're going to talk
right?
about KiwiSaver, and this is just a sum up of lots of things that we've mentioned before. But if you're looking at the new year ahead, the things to think about are, one, make sure you are optimising your maximum employer contribution. And there's an increasing number of companies in New Zealand that will match their employers at a higher rate than the 3% compulsory minimum. Whether that be 4% or 5%. So if you can afford to contribute a little bit more and get a match that's higher, if that's something that your employer offers, then you should definitely look to see if you can do that. And then obviously always banging on about getting the government contribution.
Yeah, so that the reminder that the KiwiSaver year is July 1st until June 30th each year. So just understanding this is a great time with 6 months to go, that you are on track to receive the government contribution if you're eligible. So that might just be an easy one if you are an employee. But if you're self-employed or a contractor or a freelancer or whatever that may be, it's probably a good time to check in and say, is this achievable?
I've got 6 months. Have I got time to put away that $1,042?
Yeah. And in that kind of general KiwiSaver check-in at this time of year, also checking that you're in the right fund.
Some people check their KiwiSavers all the time. Some people, it might just be an annual sort of checkup, and it's a great time to think about your fund type. Recommend you go and listen to our podcast about all the different funds that are available. And
what number is it?
Oh, I don't know. Do you know?
I don't actually. I think it might be number 5-ish.
Okay. Oh, early.
Yeah,
early
we should
one.
revisit some early ones.
Yeah. But there's a little questionnaire on our website, but also on Sorted. You just answer, I think it's 3 or 4 questions about what you're investing for and your feelings around kind of risk and volatility, and then it'll make a recommendation for the type of fund that you should be in.
And on that note, maybe making a little bit of a check-in in terms of which provider you're with, I think. So making sure that that provider is still in line with your values, your goals, whether you like what they're doing, what they're not doing, all that kind of thing. So it can be worth just kind of, new year, new me, have a check-in. Am I right with the right provider, with the right fund, right contributions?
Absolutely.
All of that. Cool.
Then another favourite topic is planning for the unexpected. We talk about setting up a rainy day fund. Hopefully lots of people that have been listening to us for a while may have started on that rainy day fund journey, or they've rejigged their what's your revolving credit mortgage to give them a bit more flexibility. But if you haven't, or you're still on that journey, because obviously setting up a rainy day fund isn't something that you can do instantly, so it might take a bit of time. So where are you at? Where do you want to get to? I think we said start small and just try and get $1,000 in a separate bank
even if
account.
that's not immediate, like you might not have $1,000, but work up to $1,000 and then as a goal, one of those SMART goals, right?
But then once you get there, would it be worth having a little bit more set aside? So they talk about having 3 months of expenses.
I think it's 3 to 6 months, which sounds like a lot.
An epic
but
amount of money.
I mean that's I guess the ideal state, and you could work towards that. You could work towards $1,000 instead of being like, oh, that's too much to think about. Getting started is the important thing, and having something, and maybe automating those little payments towards that emergency fund, like we talked about in our rainy day fund episode.
Yeah, so for sure, if you've started on that journey, where are you at, and where do you want to get to this year? And if you haven't started, then now's the time.
And go listen to our podcast on it.
Yeah.
For more details.
For sure. Cool. So those are all quite sort of serious goals, but they're quite generic. Everyone's life is different, and they're going to have different things that they want to achieve. It might be paying debt might be a focus for you this year, in which case think about that SMART rule. How much debt have you got? When would you like to pay it off by? Is that realistic?
It might be that you're ready to start saving towards a house. So again, using the SMART rules is make sure that you know exactly what your budget you'd like to be or needs to be for your house. So, and then work back as to how much exactly you need for deposit. Can your KiwiSaver account help that? So exactly
is there a shortfall?
Yeah,
how can you
exactly how much do you need to save for? And then you can create those plans around it, right?
Yeah. So, but I think it's probably important amongst all this to set some fun goals as well.
Put the fun in funds.
Oh, you're good. So not just the debt and the rainy day fund and the KiwiSaver, but what are some things that you can work towards that you actually
will enjoy doing?
Yes. So for you, obviously, your next saving goal would always be a trip, right?
It really would. So I mean, I've got my long-term retirement goals that are really important, and then in the meantime, there's all the goals of the next travel, the next time I can leave this place and spread our wings kind of thing.
So it might be that you set up a little separate account that's your fun account, and you put money in there for a long weekend away with your friends, or to go to a gig in somewhere, or
would that be same one for the big trip?
I reckon.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Or it could just be an account that's literally for little treats. Like when I love massages, I would put money aside to save for massages, and for some people that might be to save for
fancy dinner out,
manicures,
or
those people who like them, or buying
nails.
handbags. It could be those little treats, but you're actually, I think it's...
You've budgeted for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And another one might be sort of setting up a little investment account to do a little bit more fun investing and to kind of learn. You might say, right, I'm going to put $10 or $20 a week aside. Use that to explore the market a little bit, to learn.
Yeah, and I think knowing that this money, I only put as much as you're comfortable with losing it all though.
Yeah.
Because if you are kind of dabbling in individual shares or crypto or whatever takes your fancy, make sure you treat it as fun money, not as that I actually want to double my money at.
And if you do, fantastic.
Yeah.
But this shouldn't be your main investment. It's not your KiwiSaver.
And it shouldn't affect you if it does all go tits up.
Great opportunity to learn.
You could be putting that $10 or $20 into managed funds.
That's probably less risky than...
Yeah, but then you could put it into, high growth type funds or global shares. So it's up to you. But if you want to have fun with it, you can. If you want to just kind of set and forget, you can.
Exactly.
The choice is yours.
And another one is the opposite of spending money. It's setting yourselves like little challenges to not spend money. So kind
of like dry July when you don't drink.
Yeah, but what would no money July? It's not as catchy.
You'll have to work on that.
I'll come back to you.
Yes.
But where you say, I don't know, your challenge for the year might be, I'm not going to buy any new clothes. I'm only going to buy secondhand clothes. Or this month, I'm not going to go out for any meals, but I'm going to invite people to my house for dinner, or I'm going to
So it doesn't mean you have to spend zero money, because that sounds impossible. But you're saying, I'm going to not do this for a month. And
the challenge is to spend differently, spend less, maybe on a Friday night to go and have a picnic in the park and you just all bring a little bit of food to share, or especially in the summer.
Potlucks the whole time so that you don't have to spend all the money on making food for people.
Exactly. And it might be that you set yourself a bit of a goal to save money that then goes into your investment account or something else, or to pay off debt. But you're also having fun challenging yourself to kind of live a bit differently.
Yeah. I feel that's quite cool to think about what the reward could be if you do save money.
Yeah.
So say that you work out a way, you don't have Uber Eats for the month because you usually get it twice a week, and then you can track how much that you're saving, and that could be towards something that you really want.
Exactly. So it's a kind of a double. That's a win-win.
We love a win-win.
Oh my goodness, we so do.
Our MD Sam would be very happy that we've just created one there.
Yeah, but I'm going to come back to you about a better name than No Money July.
Maybe
I
we'll
don't know why I chose
podcast.
July either.
ChatGPT is going to be your mate here. Loves an alliteration.
Great idea.
Awesome.
So that's really it. We don't want to labour the point. We just want people to spend a bit of time thinking about what they achieved last year, what's changed for them, and what they still want to work on, what goals they have, setting those SMART goals.
Yeah, and of course, as we talked about, expecting the unexpected, so making sure that your rainy day or emergency fund is on track.
Yep.
Or starting it if it hasn't already.
And then KiwiSaver, just checking that you're optimising your contributions by getting the most from the government contributions and employer if you're eligible for them.
And this is probably a lot to kind of think about right now. So if it feels a bit overwhelming and you're like, shit, it's January, I don't really want to think about this, start small and just think, I'm going to take one step.
Yeah.
I'm going to set a goal for this year that I want to think about.
I think it's always the trap, eh? You're like, right, I want to get fit. I want to stop eating junk food. I want to sort my money out. I want to do all these things. It can get a bit overwhelming. But so you're right, just pick one and start there and see how that goes.
And we'll put a whole lot of resources that we've kind of mentioned in the show notes. So head there if you head there if you want a couple of ways to help you get started.
Yeah. So again, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm sure 2025
it's going to be better than 2024.
I hope so. But I'm sure there's lots in store for everyone. So yeah,
we'll catch you next time.
Ka kite.
Bye. This podcast contains personal opinions and is intended to provide educational information only. It doesn't relate to your particular financial situation or goals and is not financial advice or recommendations. Simplicity New Zealand Limited is the issuer of the Simplicity KiwiSaver scheme and investment funds. For product disclosure statements, please visit Simplicity's website, simplicity.kiwi.